I'm a timely person, so I like running my meetings on a timely basis. We have a quorum, so we can get started. Call the meeting to order at 7:01. The first order of business is going to be approve last year's last meeting. We never met again after we met, and so we just need to approve those minutes from last March. So this is really going to those that were at this meeting on March 19th. So we'll see who remembers any of this. But
Oh, sure.
if you want to take a minute just to read through, and then we can take a motion and approve these, and I can send them to Sherry to post. So it's not very exciting. This is our final vote. Can I get a motion?
I move we approve them.
I second it.
Second.
Okay. Okay. So Garrett and Shane, because you weren't there, you just have to abstain from this because you weren't there. But
So actually, I think it was your last meeting, but it was my first meeting. So I
were
believe
you
I was
on?
there.
Okay, Shane. So are you on here?
Yeah, there I am.
Part of meeting. Here we go. We got you. So there we go. Look at
Good.
this. Thank God we have minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I have to do a roll call for this because we're in Zoom, but so be it. Let's do a roll call. Let's get in the habit. Shane,
Here.
Frank.
Present.
No, just say yes, and we're doing a roll call for the vote. Just say yes and no.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Okay. Sam.
Yes.
Tracy, you here? She's not in yet. Okay. I'll finalize those. Thank you. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Phil, what's happening?
Not much. So just taking care of the last piece of business from last year to approve the minutes. We got that off the docket.
Where do you go?
Why don't we go around? We have some new faces in the committee, and then we have some esteemed guests with us tonight. So let's make sure we know who's here. But so I'll start. I'm Phil Renzi, I'm chair as of last year. So thank you for coming. Someone else say who you are.
I'm Dan Calori.
Mhm.
I've been on the committee for a few years now.
How many years, Dan?
What's that?
many?
Well, gosh, I think it's going on 5.
Okay, I've
No,
been on
maybe
since 2016 myself.
Oh,
So
you have? Okay,
Yes.
so I've been on at least that long.
at least that long. Mhm.
I'm Frank Conti, and I believe I'm in my second term,
Mhm.
just reappointed.
And my name is, go ahead. Sorry, Frank.
Go ahead.
No, Shane McCarthy. This is my first term on this meeting. I am in other committees with the town. I see some familiar faces, and happy to be on this one as well.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Garrett Murphy. This is my first meeting, first committee. I moved to Wakefield almost 3 years ago and excited to join and get involved. I haven't been involved in any type of committee, especially that uses, the Robert's Rules of Order since college. So please bear with me as I try to remember all of the, semantics with it. So.
It's Robert's Rules light. Well, we'll hit all the main points. I do have someone gave me as a gift a Robert's Rules for Dummies book that I have upstairs.
What's it doing upstairs?
Well, I read upstairs through my closed eyes when I'm fast asleep. Yeah. Welcome.
I'll have to touch up on the fine print.
Yeah.
I'm Sam Hockenberry. This is my second capital budget season, as it were. I was appointed after the budget was done like 3 years ago, so I am up for renewal. I'm also on the Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee, so all of the committees with the longest names.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, nice. Oh. And we got Tracy. It's your turn. We're just going round table introducing ourselves. Hey, Tracy.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. Tracy Cleversey, and what are we covering? Like how long, maybe?
Yeah,
Um, this year 7 or 8 or something?
close. You've been on just, oh, you came on right after I joined, so which was 16. So yeah, not far after.
Yeah.
We have
Um,
our town council liaison with us here tonight. I wanted to introduce, well, you can introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen Butt. I'm the town liaison to capital planning. I've been the liaison. I think this is my second year being liaison, maybe third, and I going into my 8th year on the town council. So thank you all for, I know, that deserves our Robert Rules book for
You
dummies.
need a book, yeah.
Thank you all for your service. So excited to start the budget season. I feel like I love capital planning because you guys get to do all the fun stuff in town and give money to all the cool projects. So I know Joe particularly enjoys all the projects that you ask him about. So and I'll turn it to Joe.
Yeah, sure. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe Conway. I'm the Public Works Director here. My function throughout all of this process, I'm essentially your scribe, right? So as information comes in, I'm kind of the peak of the funnel that gets everybody to fill the chair and then all the information out to you. And then vice versa. If anybody here has any questions or points of clarification, I kind of am, another one of the liaisons from the town side to track that down and get it to you so you can make the most well-informed decisions that you can. So questions, anything along the way, you can always email me, call me, whatever. Get in touch with me through Phil. Sure, we can go into length about a whole bunch of stuff at another point in time, but I'm really here to aid you and to make sure that you all have everything you need to get your decision process to a point where you're comfortable to get to a vote.
Thanks, Joe. So, so that's everyone. So the general, what we generally do, and I explained this a while ago after the new members got appointed, is that we meet in a bunch of meetings this time of year, and then we generally don't meet again until next year. So, one of the main goals for tonight will be to set a meeting schedule. We meet pretty rapid fire to try to get through. Our deadline is to have a final vote. I have to present to town council at their March 24th meeting and then to FinCom on the March 27th meeting. And so our goal is to have come to a final vote before that, obviously. Usually throughout the meetings, we invite the different department heads to come in. They present their lists, talk about their priorities, and then we have an opportunity at that point to ask questions or ask for follow-up information. So tonight that's the second day after we set a meeting schedule, see if there's any particular departments we want to bring in first. There's, just for no rhyme or reason, we usually bring in the chiefs, we usually bring in fire and police in one night, and then school department usually has a good amount of lists, and then the library, and then DPW kind of is throughout, but we give DPW, they have a lot of requests, so get through their meeting as well. And then at that point, we sort of just go back and forth and try to figure out a goal. Our goal this year, and this is it's a number I was given, but then as the conversation last night happened at town council, state aid numbers came in, and so there's a big budget crunch, I think, in all town capacities, but basically we were given a target of about 2,153,000, which is about a 3% increase over last year's. But it came with an asterisk that we need to really be conscious that when it does come close to we get to a point where we're kind of going before a couple projects and figuring how we're going to reach our goal is I have to check back in basically with FinCom and Steve and see where things are at in terms of that. So, but our start goal is 2,153,000, and I think as usual we have close to $8 million worth of asks. So, so what we do is we spend a lot of time going through and deciding. Some things are just obvious, too big of an ask that we may push to be a warrant article. Some will debate over a few meetings, and some are pretty, and we try to get consensus, and that's sort of how we. And as Joe said, Joe updates the lists, and we'll get updated lists every meeting depending on any changes or new prices that may come in. So with that said, let's try to set a meeting schedule. Again, next week's school vacation, so being conscious of that. I'd love to see if maybe we could start meeting the week after next. If we could do, I think when I asked in the email about an earlier start time or late 6:30 or 7, there was a mixed bag on people being able to do that. Joe, I don't know what your schedule is like. Like, could you do an earlier meeting than 7 o'clock?
I can do basically anything.
Okay.
So
Okay. So
outside of the dates that I have to be in front of the council, which would be on a Monday, or I think my dates for our operational stuff is the 7th and 10th of March. But outside of that, I'm yours. So I'll do my best to be here for everything.
Okay. So with that said, do people have a preference for a start time and are there any days? I was going to propose like Mondays through Wednesdays are best. I can do random Thursdays, but I myself, I am on another town committee, the permanent building committee that usually meets Thursdays. And so if in the next few weeks is a couple crosses there. So if we're going to plan for the week of the 24th, like, do we want to set, is that the next town
Yep.
council meeting that Monday?
Yes.
And you're at that one, Joe?
I know we have some stuff on the agenda that we'll probably have to speak to.
Yeah.
Whether or not I'm going to be there, I'm not 100% sure yet. I
Would-
definitely will have two come towards the end of the process that I'll definitely have to check out on. But
Are
I mean, I would throw out the Tuesdays at 7 PM seem to work for the group, and that certainly speaking for myself, but that seems to work well for me if it works for others.
Yeah, that works well for me. Personally, I'm pretty flexible. Anytime after 5 p.m. is fine. Whether it's on the earlier end or the later end, no problem for me.
Yeah, same with me. 5 o'clock onward is fine. So if may I suggest 5:30?
that it could be too early for some. I could make it work with advance notice. So but I want to be respectful of people's
Yeah,
their
lunch,
real
dinner
time
jobs.
where you get paid,
Yeah.
and
How
your
about
family life. So yeah,
6 o'clock? Is that still too
people-
early?
could people do a 6 o'clock meeting?
So my one, we're getting into like our kids things, I guess now, right? So my daughter's in gymnastics and she gets out at 6:30. So that's why I pick her up at 6:30. And that's in Reading, so I can get back by 7. So for me, 6 unfortunately wouldn't work.
On Tuesdays only? Like what about
No, it's
Wednesday?
every
what about
night,
Wednesday?
Monday
Every
through
night?
Friday.
Okay.
I know there's always one tough person in the group, right?
Okay, Shane, you're out of the boat. Shane, you're out of here.
I have a,
I
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, Tracy.
I was gonna say, I have a couple other committees myself, so it depends on the week,
Yeah.
so not in town actually, but work-wise, so, and they
Okay.
just tend to meet at night. I try to do my own meetings in the morning, so hopefully I'll just have to make it work. I might be in the car pulled
Okay.
over, but I'll make it work.
Sam, what about you?
I mean, I wouldn't want to do necessarily as the earlier end of the evening. I'm fine with 7. It gives me a chance to get some stuff done and try to make sure I shove food in my face before the meeting starts. I didn't quite make it this time, but um,
You coming in
Yeah.
hangry? You don't come in hangry, Sam.
no, I was keeping my mouth beneath the camera.
Okay. So what about, so could we do Tuesday, Wednesday meetings? Could we do for a few weeks? Is that is back to back, or Tuesday, Thursday? Not do back to
Wednesday
back?
is just not good for me. That's
What
sort of the
night?
point.
Thursdays aren't, right?
Thursday is fine. Tuesday's fine.
Yeah. Wednesday's tough for me too.
Okay. What about for, okay, so what about the week of the 24th, the 25th, and see, I can't do the 27th, but we could do the 25th,
Yep,
Good.
Tuesday.
yep.
Yep.
And then the next week we have time. Again, we generally meet maybe 7 times on average. So we generally, it really depends on how easy it is to cut, to move some of this money around. So the week
Okay.
of March 3rd, we do March 4th at 7.
Yep.
3, 4.
And
Yep.
what about 3/6, Thursday 3/6?
Fine with me.
So
Yeah.
I can't do that week at all because to be honest, I'll be in England, but
Okay.
um,
Yeah, it'll be
and
like 1 in the morning over there.
and on the 25th for the time, do we agree on 7? Is that
7 p.m. I think.
Yeah.
okay? And
yeah,
all
I think
meetings will be Zoom?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do Zoom,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Mhm.
Sounds good to me.
It's a little
Okay.
easier with what we do with the list, getting the list up on the screen. It's a little easier, I think, having the Zoom almost for what we need to go over,
Mhm.
if possible. And it gives people the flexibility. If you can't be present, you could sign in remotely somewhere.
But in the past, we've done some walkthroughs. If you recall, Phil, I forget the exact
Yep.
project, but we did walkthroughs. I would like to meet in person at least once, but I'm flexible on that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try to get an in-person meeting at some point for sure.
What I mean by in person is hybrid because we won't.
Yeah, it would have to be. Yeah, there's the police station has a hybrid setup now, and I believe town hall has the downstairs room. It's just a matter of competing with other committees, so we can try to figure that out for sure. But for these first few, so 225, 3/4, 3/6, and what about the week of March 10th? Is the 11th and 13th okay?
See,
think
the
so.
11th, 13th. Yes, that's fine by me.
hmm
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings. We probably should continue to schedule, and then the next week would be, I could do Tuesday the 18th, but I couldn't do Thursday that week.
Same here,
So-
actually. Yeah, I can do
Yeah.
Tuesday, but not Thursday as well.
Yeah.
I think I will have the opposite problem because I think housing production, I think it's like in the third Tuesday of the month.
Yeah,
So I have another committee commitment.
okay.
we may not need the 3/18 meeting anyway.
We
we're
have to,
talking-
well, we need it. Yeah, so that week's going to be critical for us to definitely meet. So St. Patrick's Day is Monday, which, I'm not in college anymore, so it's not a really big deal for me not to be drinking green beer somewhere. So could we meet? Is that like, I don't want to aggravate anyone's holiday there either, but
Yeah,
it's also Bunker Hill Day for those that work in Suffolk County. Think it's
so
still-
3/17.
Yeah, that's that week. I could meet the 17th, 18th, or the 19th.
Can you remind me when you have to present before the town council? What date?
The week prior. Yeah, I need to present to town council by 3/24, which means we need to have a final vote, and then I need enough. And Joe, I think, or someone does like a presentation. So we need enough time. It would be great for like the 17th to be like probably move that to be our final meeting if possible. If or 18th or 19th, somewhere in there.
I could do the 19th. I mean, I can make some Wednesdays work. And then
And Phil, I could do 17th, 18th, and 19th. So I'm free all 3 nights.
As
long as
it's
provided on the 17th, I'll be there.
Yeah, the 19th is a Wednesday. I won't be able to do that.
So Tuesday, okay. Well, if we need a majority at least then. If we're not going to get, I'd like to have everyone, obviously,
Yeah.
but
I can do the 7th. I can do any of those dates.
yeah,
Doesn't-
Do-
if the crunch
Phil,
is going to be on,
Do the
I'm
Tuesday, and then I'll figure out how to. It's Zoom meeting, so I can pop back and forth.
it is. What about, do we want to hold the 17th, or do we want to keep that keep it open?
I think we
Monday.
should hold it just in case.
So why don't
Yeah.
we do Monday the 17th, Tuesday the 18th, and both of those will be as needed. Like if we're leading up to these and it just appears that we can push through, we can cancel meetings. It's just a matter of getting it in our books now, so we
Right.
have it in case we need it. So just to repeat, and I'll send this out an email. It's February 25th. All start times is Zoom 7 p.m. February 25th, and then Tuesday, March 4th, Thursday, March 6th, Tuesday, March 11th, Thursday, March 13th, Monday the 17th, and then Tuesday the 18th.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yep.
And that should be enough. Thanks.
Bill, can I just add some stuff just to say out loud here? So if
Please.
you're presenting to town council on 24th, materials like proposal needs to get to Sherry at the latest by that Thursday, the 20th. So I think it's good to meet twice that week. So at least we can get it in the counselor's books. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think
And
that's
have time
good.
to-
And I,
right.
and just, that 17th, Monday seemed to be like there's a little bit more room available for hybrid rooms. There's also a room at the library that has hybrid capacity and also at the Civic Center. So I think if you kind of maybe ask Sherry about at least one of those meetings, like Frank said, if
Yeah.
we one in person, then that might be a good day to try that.
Oh, we could do March 17th and walk over to Harrington's. I think that sounds like a deal.
Perfect.
For their warm cornbread, of course. Yes.
And get
Hybrid meeting.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm going to ignore that comment. I'm also, I also just want to remind, I know there's some new members, so just asking everyone though, you have to do, if you're a new member, make sure you got sworn in.
I did that. Yep.
Okay, great. And then also everyone has to do the conflict of interest reporting. So just make sure if you haven't done that, please get it done because technically your vote doesn't count until you've done those two things. So
And
Right.
I've done that as well. Yep. All set.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Sherry sent, and even like I just had to do it where I just had to click. I didn't have to do the whole training this year. They changed it, I think. That
Yeah. What does it, well, what's the term of it? How long do you have? 3 years?
I think it's every other year.
every other year.
Oh, so
Right.
mine is, okay. I'm
Yeah,
up.
Sherry would have sent you an email. Like I received an email from Sherry, so I can ask her. I can ask her which if there's people that need to submit that. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'll talk to her too.
Sherry is usually on top of it. I just sometimes people get through the cracks. So just wanted to, yeah, if you could check
Right.
in, Phil, or people, if you're questioning it, just ask her. She keeps records of all the committees now.
Right.
And to your point, so I'm on 3 other committees as well. So if you are, it usually will. But I don't know if you have to do it for each one or not, if it carries over. But at any rate, I did do it. So
Okay. Good. Yeah, Sherry's pretty on top of things. So
He's great.
Joe Conway, what do you think? Should we talk about dates that who we want to invite on certain dates? Like, how have you done it in the past? Have you given the departments options, or do we just say we need you on such and such a date? How nice are we with the chiefs? We everyone we should be nice because everyone's really busy. So, but what do you want to do for that?
It depends. Yeah. So typically we've had the chiefs come in together, just because their stuff tends to be relatively brief. And then whether or not the committee wants to see the library, sometimes we've brought the director, Catherine McDonald, in on that night too. Sometimes we've used another night. Generally, when the school department comes in, my group will follow it just because there's some buildings overlap there. So while we're on the subject, might as well cover it at the same time. I'll promise not to keep it too late with my stuff. So what I could do, Phil, is I could send it out to the chiefs and see if they could do maybe the 4th or the 6th to get them right in and get them right after it. And
Well,
then
Okay, I was gonna say the 25th would be right in if possible.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, my bad. I was overlooking that. So yeah, I'll see if they can do the 25th. And then I'll shoot for maybe the school department and myself to go the 4th or the 6th. And then that'll leave you a couple of meetings after the fact. If anybody has to come in and clear anything up or, different stuff like that, then you can have a lot of
Yeah.
room for discussion. You'll get it all out front. And if there's any, backup to follow or, questions that result in a subsequent, sit down, you have time for it. It's not, stacked too far down the end.
Right. We definitely want to bring library in. They have a lot more requests than usual, and they sent sort of I would love to bring them in sooner. IT only had one request, so I don't think we need to bring Todd in for that one. Unless there's questions. I guess once we do it, we'll do an initial review, and if it seems that we want him, the committee, we'll ask Todd if he can come in or present something. But maybe the library on the 4th or 6th.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do we get the library? I didn't see library email to us.
Yeah, there's it's a matrix of
spreadsheet.
expenses.
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's not a
Spreadsheet.
PDF. It's on that email with the other attachments.
Oh,
You'll
I
find
see.
One,
I see
one
now.
is the
I'm sorry.
spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. I almost PDF'd it for that reason, actually, to make sure that it lined up with everything. So maybe we could bring in school and DPW and library the 4th and the 6th and those 2 meetings and somehow. And that way we will, 3 meetings in, we'll have met with, and that will give us the whole next 2 meetings to really go through. And if there's follow-up questions, some time to get follow-up answers.
Could I just raise one thing on the library? The 4th and the 6th, potentially one of those 2 dates, I'm going to be away. I'm on the library. I'm a library trustee, so I'm probably going to have to recuse myself from the vote. But I would like to participate in the discussion. That's a call by you, Phil.
Yeah,
But
I think as a I don't know. I don't see. We can ask. We can ask. I would say 100%. I would think you should be part of the discussion.
yeah, that's what I was hoping. So I guess where I'm going with this is that if it's possible to defer it to like the 11th, just so that I can.
What about library next week? Now, what about asking the library
Yeah.
to come in on Tuesday, the 25th?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I've sent information. Again, we have the fire department and police don't have that many requests. I think we could get through if available, Joe, for Tuesday. So the 2 chiefs and the library.
Yep, I'll send them something
Yeah.
Good.
right now.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Dan. Okay. And then the week of the 4th and 6th, Joe, it's really up to you and what you think is best there, in terms of DPW or you. We sort of, again, you both have a lot, so I want to make sure you both have enough time in our, to not do both the same night, but we can see how it goes and get into it. Frank, I want to introduce Frank. Frank was a member of this committee for many years until last year, and then with the new job change with the town, he had to drop off. But Frank brings a wealth of knowledge to all this. So you're on mute, Frank, but if you want to say hi. So he's with DPW, and thought it would be important to invite him to these meetings to help Joe out with some of these discussions too.
Hey, Frank.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks.
Frank now can bring you the day-to-day insight on all things buildings related.
Joe, I can't talk about much. You told me I can't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there we go. That's the first thing he learned. Exactly. There we go. You're a good listener. Yeah.
He missed the part where it said, "Don't make me look like the bad guy."
Okay, so now that we got that, what I'd love to do is do a once through of the list. We sent the FY26 list out to everyone. Hopefully you've had a chance to at least peruse it. And maybe just to go through it, familiarize ourselves. And if there's anything that sticks out that we might want some specific information. what I would say is bring it up tonight, or if you think of something after the meeting, like email me separately and we can ping the department heads with any specific requests. Like one thing I would really love for some of the school stuff that I'm going to ask for is photographs. I think a lot of the stuff we talk about is like, mechanical equipment or, the window's broken, like just if someone could, so stuff like that, I think we could ask to try to make our conversations a little more fruitful, than sometimes trying to imagine what they're asking for.
Uh,
So, sorry.
Phil, on the
Yeah.
on the um, photographs and that sort of thing sent over the internet, just because of the open meeting law, do we have to make those presentations in the meetings? In other words, don't discuss them, or we certainly can't discuss them outside the meeting.
It would
But
be correct. Like I could send it out or make it part of the agenda package, but we shouldn't be discussing anything. We shouldn't be discussing anything outside of one of our duly called meetings. So
okay,
it's for if someone has a question, they should email me directly by myself. And then we'll see what it is. But even then, like we can't debate anything that we need to be discussing.
yeah,
That should always be within this meeting as a whole group. And that's just the cleanest way. And we've managed to do that every year I've been on it. It's not a problem. So one year we did a tour. I think it was 20 below zero out. I don't know. Remember that one, Frank?
oh
And we
yeah,
looked at every
DPW
DPW
director.
vehicle and the DPW facility. And that was really helpful because there were a lot of vehicles that particular year. And so depending on what comes up, we might do it, we might have a field trip. So we'll see what happens. So, um, so
I have a question.
yes, Frank.
Say I wanted to go out on my own and check out the playground at the Dolbear and probably talk to the principal there. Is that allowed? Is that something that I could do?
Well, I don't know. I guess so. You can go to the playground. It's a public ground. Talking to people in the system with a request in, Frank, I would just say, why not just bring it up within the meeting? Like if
Okay.
you have questions or
Well,
need
I mean, if
information.
I'm out there looking around and, I
Well,
would
yeah,
like
they
to
call
let
it.
them know
Yeah.
that I'm on the capital committee and so on. That's all.
Yeah, that's something, again, yeah, if someone asks you, I wouldn't get into, I'm trying to consider this like an hourglass. Like everything should be coming in through this committee and out and in. I think that's just the cleanest approach. And there are watchdogs in town that we need to be. That's why when I sent that open meeting presentation from Tom Mullen, which is really, that was done on purpose because there's been a couple committees pinged with, again, innocent just moves, but then not quite to the rules of open meeting law and all that. So I'm just being extra cautious, Frank. I'm not trying to discourage interest or anything. I would just say questions. Let's ask from the committee. Send me the question, or if you want to, if you're out there and you see something specific, we could ask for more information. I think I wouldn't get into one-on-ones with people in these departments if you can help it. But that may be me being overcautious, but I think that's better to keep us all out of the fray of someone trying, wanting to make a case out of something. So,
Well, I mean, I would, without contacting anyone, I would probably go look at some of these things and see,
yeah,
see if, not that anyone would mislead us. I just like to see it myself.
that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's a public area. No one can prevent you from going to something that's public. It's the talking to people that triggered when you mentioned that. That was the only thing about that
We'd probably have to do it individually too. I mean, we
yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't all show up and go in the swing set, or at least the majority of us can't swing together. Okay. Joe, do you want to pull up the list, or do you want me to pull it up, or
So
oh.
one question for you. Do you want to look at 25 super fast?
Oh yeah, you know what? I did have that. I had
That's
that
on the agenda.
to go over an overview of what we approved last year and where things are at.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I can run through that. This will be very, very quick because 99% of it's done. So
I'm sorry, can you even share? Do I have to, hold on.
No, I think I can. I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing.
There you are.
All right. Do you see the spreadsheet with 3/19/2024 at the top of it?
Mhm.
Yeah, you just got to make it a little bigger, please.
Tell me when.
I'm blind as a bat
That's
job.
that's
Yeah,
good.
That's
I'll
good.
have you at 72 font in about 3 seconds. Yeah,
That's all right.
that looks good.
All right. I'll go slow, but it'll be quick, like I said. Um, so for those of you who haven't seen this before, the top section of this list is always leases from prior years. Basically, what this is the committee has the ability to finance some things. So to stretch the payments out a little bit to try to, put more on per year. So obviously those bills are always paid. Anything that's done like that, the payments are always set up for July 15th. So as soon as the new fiscal year rolls around and the first warrant goes out, all those get paid and taken care of. Everything last year in fleet is complete with the exception of the rubbish truck for Public Works in my group. That's at the upfitter right now. We're just waiting for that to get built and sent to us. I am cautiously optimistic that we'll see that sometime in March. So for those of you who haven't been through this process before, so typically you have a fleet section annually, you have a building section annually. Water and sewer are separate because they're funded out of two separate sources outside of the tax levy. And then we kind of have like a miscellaneous kind of a catch-all that we'll get to in a second. But related to buildings, the majority of this is finished. I do believe that the things at the Doyle School are done. I just didn't want to put that in print without checking that with Tim. I'm sorry, I haven't done that. But I'm almost sure that everything there was finished over the summer. The Civic Center's epoxy floor is actually going on right now. Other things in this one, so some new flooring for the bunk rooms at the fire department. Our buildings division was in there last week trying to schedule when is the most convenient time to get that finished with them. We have some trim work to do at the Greenwood this spring. And then I believe they abated and replaced the VCT floors, but I will confirm that with you. So I would say sometime by the middle of May or just after town meeting, the whole building section should be finished and considered complete.
Great.
You'll see FPC. So this is just shorthand, forestry, park, cemetery, really like your outside places. So we had a couple of things going on at the cemetery. We replaced the roof there. We resurfaced the tennis courts at the Dobbins tennis court. Doyle School got a new playground surface. We actually had a grant that coincided with this to update some of the equipment there too. So that's new and refreshed. And then we have a little bit of ancillary stuff left at the cemetery that as soon as the weather breaks, we'll finish up there on the exterior of our building. Same thing like the building sections before. I say by mid-May, this will all be finished as well. Miscellaneous is just something that we've used. It's kind of doesn't necessarily fit one category or the other, but it's still important. So the library, we have a stair reset. So in front of the building, the mortar underneath the stairs is basically all weathered away. Some of the treads, aren't exactly in the greatest place because of the mortar. The town was actually successful in getting a state earmark for that. Which through Mr. Mayo, I just received the documentation on that project. So myself and probably our building manager will sit down with Catherine within the next week or so and get that scheduled for that to happen. Depending on what that price comes in, so we've got $75,000 via state earmark. Depending on what happens with that and the final scope of the project, this funding may actually not be needed. And we've done it in the past with a couple of things where earmarks have covered some things that you had in here. We could actually be in the position to revote this and appropriate it to something else. So stay tuned on that because that will come up as things move on. The vehicle detection thing, I haven't been able to connect with Randy Hudson. He's a captain at the fire department that does all of our traffic signals. Much like the school stuff, I think that's also finished. But I don't want to speak for them at this point in time. And then we put some funding in for, we did ADA assessment basically of every building in town with the exception of the high school, obviously because of the major renovation project that's going on there. To do some improvements. So we've been working through that plan and hope to have that done this May as well. Just moving on. So IT, obviously anything related to information technology. The camera systems for the schools are finished. They finished that over the summer. The town is working its way through deployment of the time and attendance software. So that should be finished relatively soon. I think I personally have underestimated the amount of work that goes into standing something like that up. So it's been nice to see that moving along. And then last year, my group graciously got funding to redo our work order and asset management system, which is ongoing. And I hope to have that stood up and live by sometime in May as well. So it's been pretty busy here on the IT front. As I mentioned before, so sewer and water paid out of the rates outside of the tax levy. So they're both self-sustaining. They fund all their own equipment, buildings, personnel, you name it. Much like the tax levy, every once in a while, we end up leasing something to kind of spread the payments out and not send too much of a shock into what we might have in reserves. Both of those enterprises obviously finish off July 15th, like everything else. Last year, we ordered a new dump truck, which is on order. I don't have a delivery date for that yet. One of the things that I'll probably opine on a little bit more is vehicles, the timeline for actually taking delivery on some of these things. Post-COVID, post-inventory, commodities issues, you name it, labor, all of it has basically turned the timelines on those things upside down. With the longest, I'm 658 days out on one that we had ordered, I think in 2023, that we still haven't seen yet. So that's something obviously that we had to consider as we were putting together this year's plan. And I'll kind of go through that in general. In each one of these, we also use a line we call system improvements. So what this generally is in sewer, we do a lot of investigation. So you'll sometimes see people centered around a manhole with smoke or camera equipment, or looks like dirty camera equipment around it. We're actually doing TV inspections of all the sewer. And because it's relatively low pressure, we can actually line them from the inside. But every once in a while, we find that, through a slip joint or something that the camera shows us, we can't actually do that work. So we have to physically dig it and replace it. If not, this is a blanket for if a pump goes down, we have the capacity to do that in one of our pumping stations. Typical pump price for a building like that is about $30,000 to $40,000. So really, it's part necessity and part security blanket. Related to the work orders, so because the work orders are getting funded to do sewer division and water division work, we did a cost share there. So it was split between tax, water, and sewer. So that's what you see in those line items there. And then the only other difference last year in water, we purchased a backhoe, which showed up last year around July 5th. So that's basically everything from last year. Most of it complete. I don't know if we want to hash over anything anymore. You want me to move into 26, Phil? It's totally your call.
And does anyone have any questions for Joe about this updated list?
Just so refreshing, can you give me the bottom line figure that we approved?
So just a kiss over 2 million. So 2,051,816 from tax, 390,000 in sewer, and 254,000 in water.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Joe?
Nope.
Joe, I have a quick question. What is the delta between column E and column C? One is recommended and one's estimated.
So that's a great question. So generally, what'll end up happening, sorry, I'm moving here. The first estimates we get, especially related to the fleet stuff, people tend to be conservative. They'll throw out like a budgetary quote at first, and then as it gets a little bit closer to reality, you start trimming down and finalizing some of the things, that all the must-haves are in, but the nice-to-haves, the decision has been made on whether or not you're going to include them or not. So as this process goes, you'll see this change. One of the things I do is every time I get something new, I'll update that column E, should it change at all, and note that so you can see it live. So that's basically, the department heads or whoever going back and saying, okay, I really think we're going to get the trash truck now. To plan for the worst case scenario, we included every possible option that we think we might need. Here's, exactly how we need the truck upfit. Can we adjust the price to this? And it kind of happens like that. Same thing on the buildings end. You might get a conservative quote from someone. They don't know if they're going to get the job or not. And then as that becomes more of a reality, and we go back to them, really just say, sharpen your pencils, and we can work that down.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Joe, thanks.
No problem. All right, let's see.
Do you want to bring up 26? Do we have a lease schedule for 26 that
I
you can?
didn't-
Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't send you that.
I didn't see it unless it was a tab I didn't see. I was just wanted to make sure because that's one of the things with the leases is it helps us approve some of these larger ticket items and spread it out over a period of time. But what happens is those start adding up, and then that takes away from our bottom line. So if there's we have 2 million and there's $350,000 in leases, we effectively can only approve 650,000. 1,650,000 in other requests. So, some years ago, there was a lot. I think we're up to 500,000 in leases. So we brought that down. Leases have ended. So it's always a conversation when we're looking at some of these bigger budget items on whether or not, we could lease it and get it done, or is it becoming too heavy in the lease schedule? Because that does affect future years. So we do kind of go back and forth during our talks with that schedule too. So it's okay. You could bring out if you just want to bring up the 26. We can get into leases. I think once we get going into
Nope.
a little bit more of the
All right.
meat here.
Just
Oh,
tell me
there
when
you
you want
go.
me to stop.
So this is
Is this big enough for you? So this is a lease schedule that I thought that I included in the sheet that you got, but I'll send it out in an update after tonight. But this column D here that I highlighted, here's your tax total this year, and then the subsequent out years follow to the right. So this year, the outstanding payments on the books are 372,000, and then next year, that drops to 243, then 133.88, and then we don't have anything on the schedule past 2030. In the same fashion as what we have in the list that I just kind of ran through, and then we just managed the same lease number through water and sewer. This one's just color coded, so there's $103,000 in water leases this year, and $239,000 in change in sewer. Leases is kind of a interesting term. Really, what it is a financing schedule. The only thing is you put up collateral against it. Should you default or fail to pay, they would, take the title and then, become owner of the vehicle. When they're paid off, they release the liens on them, and then we just own them until we don't anymore. So I'll make sure this is included in the next one for you, Phil, too.
Thanks.
That I sent it to you.
Okay.
Are the leases generally interest-free, it seems?
No, sometimes they are. It depends really on what the manufacturer has going on. Generally, like anything else, they're based off of the prime rate, or whatnot. I think the last time we went out, we saw at least finance numbers right around 4%. I would say if we entertain anything this year, I'd probably expect to see it around 5.5. Um, you know, give or take the state of the economy at the time, kind of subject to that. But if there is a 0% option, we definitely will take advantage of that. That's for sure.
Right. Not to get too in the weeds, but do you know generally is the interest rate on these leases, are they fixed or are they variable as the prime rate changes?
No, so these would be fixed. So
Okay.
because of the way that we function with an annual appropriation, we want to limit any potential liability or volatility that we have. So the company that we generally lease these through, the town has been leasing different odds and ends for quite a while. So we have a pretty good relationship with them. But it's fixed the lowest amount of terms that we can get from them. Generally, depending on what it is, we may look at a 3-year term, we may look at a 5-year term. It all kind of depends on how it balances out and how it fits in the schedule. So that can be as stable as you can keep it. There aren't too many swings because, like Phil said, you could lease everything, but you're essentially, robbing yourself of, that capacity in the short term. So
Right.
And
Typically-
something to point out just in case the fleet section, those are the vehicles being replaced. It's like, we're not looking to purchase a 2008 dump with plow and sander for $320,000. We're looking to replace that one, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think I made the mistake one time of putting the new dates in by mistake, and that came up. But yeah, I generally try to include the vehicle year so you can see kind of how we're depreciating things in that regard. Let's see. So like I mentioned, this year's leases, you have $372,000 in payments on the books. The fleet section is generally pretty heavy with DPW. We manage the largest fleet in town, obviously. The police department annually now, at least in my whole experience with this for the last however many years, we tend to see the chief request 3 cruisers a year to keep those cycled in and out. Those are basically their office on wheels. So that's important to them. This year we have a request for a fire engine and a command car for the fire department. Not to steal Phil's thunder on this one, but the fire engine typically has been something, if it gets included in this, it gets pushed out for a warrant article. But in the sake of transparency, it's included because that's on their capital replacement schedule and you are the capital planning committee. And if nobody objects, buildings is generally kind of usually your long one. There's a little bit of everything in here. What I will do in column A, I try to break it all down by building. That way we are looking at, everything that the library is looking for, everything that's being requested for town hall, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these library requests at this stage of the game came from the library. Most of the other buildings come from Public Works, and then there's a little bit of a shared responsibility between some of the school stuff that you'll see. When we get into some of the school things, when Tim O'Brien, who you'll meet, is the facilities manager over there, sends it, he prioritizes all his work in tiers. So column D, I try to include that so we have that for reference of what their priorities are based on level 1, level 2, level 3. So you'll see that throughout this too. So
Joe,
I can go, you can go
Joe-
line by line with this, Phil. We can kind of
yeah. I got
stay
a
at
quick
10,000
question.
feet. I guess, I don't know how, if anything jumps out, you guys want to stop. I don't want to hijack the
Well,
meeting.
yeah, I have a
Kinda
quick
giving you the
question on the
tour.
library. Does the DPW maintain the library? Like, I know you maintain like town buildings and schools. Is the library a building where it's under the maintenance is DPW?
No, so it's actually under the library and the board of trustees. What I will tell you though is, if they ever have an issue, we're more than happy to send the whole army over and help however we can.
Right.
But, however that's carved up in, the political world, that does not happen to be under the jurisdiction of Public Works.
Okay, good.
I can, yeah, I can add to that just briefly
Sure
that they they tend, as you would think then, to hire their own contractors. A good example, they just had the parking lot behind the building repaved. That was done with a contractor from a Reading paving company, and they'll do that again with these projects. But I will say that the sort of the stalwart behind just about all of the stuff there is the DPW. We always sort of have them on the Rolodex to get in touch with for anything.
Yeah, so the other thing we'll do, any contract that we put out for basically any work. So we generally have someone on retainer and contract for electrical, plumbing, any of the trades that you can think of. Everything that we put out, we always include language in it that any town body is able to use our pricing, so that if we can leverage them better pricing for anything that they do through some of our purchasing power, that option's there for them.
It's good to keep in mind.
Right. So
Yeah, it just stuck out that their whole HVAC system, from the boiler, chiller, rooftop units, is coming up in their capital plan, which can happen in capital plans sometimes because they just throw a useful life on it, and they all, so I'm just one thing, and we can ask, it's Catherine, correct? Catherine
yes.
McDonald, just like, like the maintenance, like are any of these worse off than the other? Or, it's just unusual. You would generally want to replace your whole, every single system in 1 year. So,
Right.
yeah.
At
So
this,
questions like, so that's why I was asking if you guys if you would know that. Are there any other buildings on this list similar, like Yule School, like Vinton Street? I don't know. I know Yule School. I know where it is, and I don't know what Vinton Street is, but are those similar type buildings that they're
yeah. So just really the last thing on the library. So at the sake of being presumptuous, I mentioned we have to have a conversation about the stairs. I always offer our HVAC folks to kind of come over and help and see if we could come up with some sort of rank and prioritization to that. Should the committee want to phase that or whatnot, common sense tells you what's in the worst condition, and let's make that top priority. But we'll get on the same page beforehand. That way, when it gets presented to the committee, it's as clear as it possibly can be, and everybody's the same. Vinton Street is actually the little, so Vinton Street used to be the main sewer pumping station for the town. It's the brick building located behind Wakefield
the brick
at
building.
Vernal Field.
Yeah. Okay.
Yule School is a town building that is currently being rented by, I believe it's still Seam Collaborative. So there's a third party in there that rents that. The town is the owner of that building. To answer your question, Phil, the only other thing that we do not necessarily maintain that is still technically a town building would be like the Hartshorn House or the History Museum, so the Little Red Schoolhouse. Although same rules apply, right? So their roof was in rough shape and the chimney was actually about to fall off. So we stepped in and tried to help them with that, and were able to get that replaced through ARPA funds. So, it's all the town of Wakefield, and our staff wears the town of Wakefield on their chest or their sleeve. So, we look at it, we're all the same team. The only other thing that we don't really maintain is anything owned by the gas and light department. They're their own separate branch of the government and do their own thing.
Okay. Thanks.
Joe, I have a quick question about the Yule School.
Sure.
Do we know, are there any items in their lease that we're obligated to kind of fulfill? Is that included in here?
I actually, believe it or not, don't house the lease. I didn't sign it. I can look to get that. Generally, as far as obligations that we've just kind of defaulted to. So, if you had a floor that was made out of 9x9 asbestos tile and it cracked or something like that, we would step in and do that work. Obviously, the building has to be in condition where it can be rented, and it can be, utilized for whatever that rental purpose is. But I don't think of anything specific. So like we don't clean it, we don't maintain it in that regard. Related to the Yule School, they pay for their own heat. That is the last building in town that still has oil fuel boilers, but it's not something that the town's not paying for the oil delivery there. They kind of manage that on their own. If for some reason the boilers weren't firing, we'd go there and get it back up and running. But it's a little more hands-off than some of the other places in town. But I can see if I can get some details for you on the lease for sure.
Yeah, I think it comes up a lot. We punt the last few years. There's been Yule requests that get removed, and we haven't approved. I don't know. I know it's a school because it used to be, but I'm going to guess it's not run by the school department still. But my worry is the town has this old asset and we're not performing any capital improvements or repairs to it. And we have a renter that we're not sure if they, some leases they would have to pay for capital improvements. So it would be important to understand that because that would, tell us one, we wouldn't approve it part of our list, but the town would have to tell the tenant that they would be responsible. But two, someday we're going to get this building back, and we have to be conscious of what condition it's in when we get it back. So, maintaining it is important if it's going to be an asset to this town. So, there's kind of a couple dueling questions there, but it's just we haven't approved something at the Yule School in at least the last 2 or 3 fiscal years, and I know that every year they do have requests like this. So it's just something that we need to, even though it's not utilized by a town department in any way, we have to consider its improvement. So
So I'm sorry, were those requests that they made, I forget, were they covered by something else?
no, I think we just took it off the list.
No, so
And
I
they were,
know like
and they were never done.
They just didn't make the cut.
the boiler replacement's a good example. Um, like I mentioned earlier, it's the only building left in town that has any type of oil heat. Everything else is either natural gas or electric. Um, so naturally, as we've gone through every building, taken away the old oil-fed boilers, removed the tanks, abated whatever needed to be abated, and then converted them into the cleaner fuels. This is just the last one. So that pops up just because it still remains on the list. At some point in time, it's still going to be the last one that we're going to have to deal with at some point in time. Now, whether it gets leased out, in perpetuity, whether, the lessee leaves and then the town has a discussion about repurposing it, reusing it, something like that, it's still going to be there. So we still have it.
Who's making these requests on their behalf? Or is it somebody, we're essentially the landlord.
This is the buildings division in DPW. So they look at all the assets they have and based on age, condition, and inventory, this comes up.
So
So
it's coming out of DPW.
yes, yep, because the town of Wakefield is still the property owner. Yep.
Okay.
Pending anything that lease might say that I'm not aware of, but I'll get whatever I can on that and share what I find.
Yeah, like I know the boiler, I just found like the FY23 list, the boiler was on there as well as a roof, which we never did. So it's just curious. It's just one of those buildings that, it'd be great to understand the mechanics of the tenancy and then understand from the town what the intent is. Because the intent is to keep it, we need to maintain it. So we need to start putting some money into it. So just something to think about. The Galvin, I was going to email Tim more about this, the curtain system, which, I was talking to Bond the other day at the high school site, and they couldn't understand what was going on. So it's a big ask for that curtain system at the Galvin, the fly system. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, I don't even know what exactly that is.
Yeah, so I don't know. So that's one question I'd love Tim to, because it's a 10-year-old or 11-year-old system at this point, right? So you know, it's just, so that was a curious, caught my eye. Anything you want to mention about the Doyle modular building for 800 as a tier 2?
No, I mean, the only thing I know about that personally is basically what was included in the school's letter. I just think it's a capacity issue. Look
They
at the
just want to
swing
build a
space.
modular, yeah, okay.
Um, we have, they did have those, way before my time, I believe. They utilized something like that at the Walton before it had, the addition that was just recently done to it.
Mhm.
The
Okay.
back of the Doyle may have even been a modular construction too. I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
Would we be compensated for that if that's part of the rental? Since we're renting out the Doyle.
Oh, no, so the Doyle is actually early childhood. So the school,
Oh,
Doyle,
it's
you're not wrong. The Doyle was at one point in
Used to be,
time.
yeah.
I think it was the Odyssey Day School.
Yep.
May have
I
been
see.
lieutenant there. Now the school department's in there full time.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, they're both tier 2, the big numbers.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
preschool, I believe, townwide.
And then so the Yule Field, that's the Yule Field, which is that whole field is in rough shape. I'm glad to see the basketball court. I feel that's with the lack of fields with the high school project. You know, it would be great for that whole field to be redone in some way, but I also know I think it's in a flood zone. I think it's a floodplain, or
yeah,
it
it's
appears that
often
way every
flooded.
time it rains at least. But that basketball court is in rough shape too. So I think that would be a benefit, but and we've been trying to do, Frank Leone could probably speak a little of this. We've been trying because we've been trying to do a playground a year, to really get through we had a lot of older playgrounds in our town. And so in my tenure, since I started in 2016, we've been trying to approve at least one playground a year. So I think we're near almost getting to the full circle. I know the Dole Beer is, we punted it because we did, Woodville. Which one? I forget who we approved last year, or
No,
maybe
we
it was the
did
Doyle.
one
I'm
at,
sorry, the Doyle.
this Dolby has two,
That's
and
what
we
it
did
was.
one in the parking lot for the lower kids. It's the one out near the soccer field that hasn't been done that they're asking for.
Right. Okay.
And
That's what I did too. Yeah.
that can wait because the younger kids field playground got redone in the last year.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Joe, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I feel like most of them have been done.
So we've done, let's see,
Greenwood. Greenwood was
Maple,
COVID.
Maple Way, Greenwood, Woodville. They're one out of the two at the Dull Bear. The Walton has a new playground and a whole bunch of other amenities.
JJ Round was done. It was a
JJ.
number of
I
years.
think honestly, if you schedule it out, I have to ask Dennis, my park supervisor here. But
A lot of work has gotten done at Narcella too. How is that not on the list here? Is that improve? Are those improvements that old that they are? The
Dan,
Narcella one?
from what I know from Nacella improvements, none of it's capital. There's been a
all
lot of
small
stuff
stuff.
done there, and it's just been done with other funds.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
But
like
the
the back.
playground, Nacella's playground is original. They
Yeah.
probably have the last jungle gym that is not that would
Yeah,
not be
Not to code.
authorized.
the old metal that bakes in the sun. Like,
Yeah, they would not authorize that
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
That's the last one.
I think
I
I
fell
would.
off that slide.
Yeah, it was like keeping Armcast people in business, you know.
I think outside
Okay.
of that, the oldest playground, which is I still believe in pretty decent shape, is actually Sullivan Field.
That's the oldest one.
I think so.
And
Yeah, because
where
all the
is that?
ones
Remind me where's that field?
It's off of
off of
Salem
Salem
Street.
Street. So where the BMX track is down there.
Oh, the BMX track, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
tucked away. I didn't know that existed till like 3 years ago, but yeah. Yeah, right. Okay.
There's a little playground in there to the left, but everything around the lake, WCNA and the town has done over the years.
Yep.
I don't think we're missing anything. I think that's all of it. So this group has basically worked their way through just about every single one of them.
Yeah,
So-
that was the goal, to at least do that. And then I guess, is it school department that oversees playground maintenance, or is it the park? Is it Dennis? Dennis is the parks department?
No, the Parks Department would. So anything related to that, I mean, we're hand in hand on most of that. They'll usually, give us a heads up something's going on or whatnot, but maintenance and making sure it's in good working condition falls on us. So, if you're out there and you see there's one of the swings is cracked or something doesn't look right, we would be the ones that would come out and fix whatever it is and bring it back to the way it's supposed to be.
So Phil, to answer your question, we've pretty much been caught up on getting one park a year updated.
Mhm.
And obviously Doyle last year was done with a grant and is completed. Doll Bear is the special because there's two parks. So we did one there, but they do have a second one, and that will be up to us to approve that.
And that's why it says playground 2.
Yes, playground
Okay,
two.
got it. I forgot that they had, I
Yep.
didn't know if this was like round 2 or phase 2, but it's the second one. Yeah. Okay.
Which is fine. We could approve it. It's a second playground at that school.
Yeah.
And there's other issues about that playground, which we should talk about at a future meeting that Joe will talk about as far as handicap accessibleness. And
Mhm.
it's different than other playgrounds, but we shouldn't talk about it tonight.
Okay.
Let's see. So just to round out the next section. So again, field, park, cemetery. For a few years, my group is we have plans to essentially create a cremation garden at Forest Glade Cemetery. As morbid as that sounds, it really is a way to utilize the space down there more efficiently. We're seeing the trends in sales generate that way. The luxury you have with going cremation in sort of a niche wall, like what we're going to describe when we get into it with my group, is you can go vertical instead of going in the ground. And really the mindset to this is to try to preserve some of the horizontal space that we have down there, because the possibility for an expansion down there, should we start getting even more crunched on space, is going to be extremely difficult, especially being in the floodplain, especially in the back. So if we don't start to think proactively about this and give people some options that utilize the space better, one option down the road, whether it's for myself or somebody else in a seat similar to mine, would actually be to start decommissioning some of the roads down there and filling them in and using them for burial plots. So we can get much deeper into that. We have a pretty elaborate plan that utilizes some walls and it utilizes some in-ground things. Not to go too off topic, but this would be as a Kickstarter to put the rear walls in place and at least break the ice on this project and get some of the interest headed that way. But we talked about
You know what the full cost of that is, if this is the start?
So to do the whole thing, the last year we estimated it was around $350,000, give or take, and it netted. I'll go through the plans when we talk about it, but I thought we added somewhere around 4,000 internments there. Maybe a combination of in-ground and walls and things like that. So really what the plan would be is this would be the seed money, right? Or somebody termed it one time the angel investment to get this going. And then my group would make a recommendation to the town council. Right now, one of the things we talked about, we don't allow pre-sales. But maybe for something like this to pay back some of the capital money that this takes, we would allow pre-sales to at least recover our costs so we can net out at zero. But we can get way further in that and deeper into the weeds, at a more appropriate time. Other pretty standard stuff here. So our engineering group is looking at some more additional sidewalks and things in Hall Park, Sullivan Field, so the BMX park that I mentioned before. So if you drive in there, the way that the topography works there, as you go into the parking lot, you have to turn left before you get towards like where the baseball field is. That's screaming for some sort of drainage improvement using green infrastructure. And then people are parking on the dirt there and different things just because, it gets crowded with games and different things like that. So I was trying to see if we could do a project there to button it up and make it nice and then, treat some of the drainage before it enters the wetlands. I think the last thing that we have not touched on any of the commons that's historical and needed an update is the rockery. So we're thinking about asking and talking about potentially redoing the pump and the drain that's in the bottom of the fountain to make it a little bit more user friendly, and then to either line the pool, for lack of a better term, itself, or tile it, or do something like that to make sure that it's beefed up from the water type perspective. Then you have the playground surfacing that we kind of talked about a little bit, and then the Walton School. So I guess the last remaining piece of some of the improvements for the rear of that school there. There's a section of where they play, which has been historically hard to grow grass and keep the grass there because of some of the other things going on. We did a lot of construction up there, moved a whole bunch of things, added some pavement. So they're looking to see if we can finally put that last piece of the puzzle together. And when the school department comes in, they'll be able to elaborate that on a lot more. Okay. So some of the goofy ones that don't necessarily fit, perfectly everywhere. Just a couple of them from the recreation department. They're looking to upgrade all the tables at the Civic Center in the Ace building. They're looking for 25 tables. Some of my stuff in here is just replacing some broken sanders and plows and things like that. There's a request for a line paint room street because we found ourselves renting that. Our highway division is looking for a bigger road paver. Some of the reason behind that, if you go to the intersection of Broadway and North Ave, they actually paved that with a machine that was really built for sidewalks. They took the challenge and did that. This would be able to get them a bigger machine, and then they'd be able to go curb to curb and pave a whole lane with at the same time. Start doing some more of that stuff in-house. Fire department's looking for some onboard vehicle computers, and I think Chief Sullivan mentioned that they have a grant that they'd be going after, and there's a match component of that. That explains the $5,000 there. So this is kind of the odds and ends shop that it's not right for somewhere else, so it's just right for the miscellaneous tab. And then last but not least, some camera upgrades in IT, and then the enterprises. So we're just looking to replace 2 machines and do our annual system improvements. So pretty cut and dry there this year.
Same backhoe, just split between the divisions.
No, actually, it should be backhoe and dump truck, but I'll update that and change it for you. But sometimes you will see that though, because the machine does do water and sewer. It's not that we're buying half a machine or half of a vehicle. It's just shared between the 2 funding sources, but we'll try to alleviate that and not have any confusion that we don't need.
The Civic Center one, every year I think we question because there's income that comes into the Civic Center for their $8,000 in tables. Like the money the Civic Center collects for people renting it out for whatever, that money like, where does that money go? Does that go to the general town? Does that go like, I just, it's a small request, and one I don't understand why they're not covering it out of usage fees or whatever they call it. So I don't know if there's any information that the rec department can offer. I know they gave us a picture of some tables, and it seems to me it's something that they should be covering out of their rental fees.
So not managed by my group. I don't have
Right.
100%. I don't think it's set up as a revolving fund, although I'm not sure. So the general standard practice is that would default into the general fund of the town. But that is something I can find out and have for your next meeting. I can also extend the invite to Dan really quick if you want him to come in and kind of elaborate on how that works. We can get it right from the source if the group is so inclined to do so. Just let me know.
I don't know if he would need to come in for a table. If he could just write a response would be fine. I think fine, but what does the group think?
No, I
Uh,
agree, right? So we
I
can keep
agree.
it efficient. I agree. Just a written response is fine. We don't need to, have them come in and do a big presentation.
Yeah.
I
Just
want to
curious.
know why we're spending $300 per table. Like,
Well,
That's
but
you go to
that
Costco, they're a lot cheaper.
right, like that's the question I have. Like, it's underneath any sort of procurement threshold, so it's not like it has to be bought through WB Mason. Like, there's no like it had to be on a state contract
Hmm.
thing. Like, I just don't understand that price unless there's something magical about these particular tables. I'm not. I don't understand
Right.
that individual purchase, but
Hmm.
Phil, did I send you
You
the?
did. I sent it around.
Okay,
Yeah, it was like the PDF of the table. Yeah.
gotcha.
That file name is like scan something.
Yep, yeah. Wow, your memory's good.
Well, you just had it up on the screen for a second. But I think I renamed it. But yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, exactly, Sam. Like same questions. So I think if he could just write an explanation, I don't think we need to bring him in.
So I would guess, not to speak for him, but I would think that it says the static load capacity of these is for 880 pounds. So they're probably a little bit more rugged than the ones you get at the on the back wall, the corner of BJ's that fold in half. But I'll seek some more information to bring some clarity to that for
The other
sure.
thing about the tables is who is using them. I mean, if they're being used by people who are renting the space, then that's where the revenue should go to, right? Are they being used by the town, or are they being used by people who are renting the space?
I think it could potentially be anybody. So
Yeah.
it could be a rental. It could be if the town, I would imagine if the town hosts some sort of meeting or informational
Mhm.
session there, you name
Yeah, I
it.
mean, the rec department's there. Yeah.
Yeah, so the schools are kind of set up like that. Most of them have like a set of chairs and some tables. If they have some sort of function going on, they at least have the ability to flip the room into a couple of different occupancies. Probably similar to that, I would think. If you were to have
Yeah,
like
but they're not getting the rental that I suppose, yeah.
no, I don't know. We can get the answers to that for sure.
Next year, we don't have any painting on this list where we have to say, hey, painting's not a capital request.
That's always included for
I
transparency.
like that. Yeah, I like that we don't see that. So, okay, any other questions on any of this? Was that a good cursory review for everyone to get us started, get us warmed up?
Yeah.
um, I wanted to just do a quick shout out to the departments. Maybe they listened to our discussion last year, or inflation happened, that we aren't being inundated with a bunch of really tiny asks. Like, everything is in the tens of thousands. And so I appreciate that the people are asking about something more substantial than just uh, the hundreds of $4,000 asks that we had last year. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
Here. Yeah.
Phil, could you remind me, like, if we have questions as we go throughout the week, should we be emailing you or just kind of like saving them for the meeting?
If you know, if like, once we find out who's coming, get confirmation of departments coming in and we have questions, I could collect them ahead of time and distribute them to the department head so they can come in prepared for questions. Or we can just ask them the night off. But sometimes if there's quite, they don't have the info, we have to wait to hear from them. So
Hmm.
I have no problem collecting questions if someone wants to email me ahead of time, and then I could, I'd say, at least 48 hours before the meeting, so we're not rushing questions out to someone, but and then I can send them, and then hopefully they'll come prepared with answers or something. Or you could just ask them the night off. Either or would be fine with me.
Bill,
Okay.
do you mind just tagging me into those? That way, if
Yes,
for some reason we're
100%.
not getting something during the normal course of business, I could keep peppering them to say, "Hey, don't forget this, please."
Yeah, Joe, I would keep you exactly. I'd keep you copied on anything like that, 100%.
If we send I guess just to clarify though, to Garrett's point, so if we send the question just to you, Phil, or are we including
To
Joe in
me.
that? Oh, just you, okay. And
Or
then
you
you,
can include Joe. I guess it doesn't, I don't know. Joe, again, I'm just trying to, this is my first
right,
full go around his chair. I'm just being cautious. Send it to me. I will make sure that Joe is copied on any question that comes through.
sounds good.
It really, my only part is to just make sure that you get the information you need. It's so much easier to have it up front, right? Because then
Right,
you start the meeting by say, here was the question, here was the answer. So
Right. Yeah, I
yeah,
think it would help because there have been some years where like, oh, I'll have to get back to you, and then we have to talk about it. So it might make our meetings with the department heads a little more streamlined. They've been pretty streamlined. They know what we're at. They generally know what they're presenting, and but yeah, send me the question. I'll make sure it gets out to the department head in advance, and that Joe is copied as well.
beautiful.
Okay.
Phil, Frank here.
Yeah, Frank.
Ask Dan from the Civic Center to be part of one of the meetings. My opinion. In the tables, it's his opinion. It's not up to him whether you get him or not, whether the committee gets him or not. They are going to be required. It's not his funds that are going to pay for them if our committee doesn't pay for them. But ask Dan to come. Don't ask for him for a written response. I'm just saying, ask for him to join a meeting. He would gladly join a meeting and give you a response.
Yeah, I think why don't I don't know why we can't ask them for it in writing, but like I'm curious, like if someone rents the Civic Center, where does that money go? To the rec department or to the town of Wakefield?
Joe can probably answer it better, but it goes to a general fund. So no, Dan doesn't have a fund that he pays for stuff. But
But like
Joe,
something breaks at the Civic Center, he goes to the town and the town fixes
yes,
it. Right.
yes,
So like if they need new tables to replace existing tables,
the town,
a question whether it's even a capital expense, and
the
B
town.
whether it should even come to us. But
It
um,
should be again, this is opinion, my opinion. It's a capital expense because they all have to be replaced. They're not asking to replace one table. The tables are 25 years old and they need 25 of them to keep their
it's
rentals going.
Dan McGrath, correct?
Yeah, Dan McGrath. Yeah. Yeah,
Is
get
the
Dan.
committee
Dan will
want
be
to
great.
invite Dan for next week, next Tuesday?
Well, whenever. It doesn't matter what weekend is. Yeah,
Well, I'd want to get it over. I'd want him in and out. I
yeah.
don't want to spread out the department heads too much. I think if we can try to get everyone through our meetings on the 6th, I think it would be great. So,
But
and I really want to
the
give the
funding is
school,
beyond Dan.
yeah.
But it's
Well, that's why, but why he's making the request then?
good
That's where I'm
because
just
they're all
curious by it. But
the tables are in rough shape.
right,
The tables are very, very old.
Joe, buy the guy some tables, will you?
sure, you got it.
Okay, can you see if Dan wants to come in maybe next Tuesday?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. As soon as we break, I'll send something to everybody. I'll see when I can get the schools in. And
Yeah,
then
school DPW the 4th or the 6th.
yeah, I can go whenever. I mean, we can.
I know, but I want to make sure you get your spotlight, Joe. I know you fill in your tidbits when you can, but you have a lot on there and you have a lot of good requests on there. So give you the time for it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I don't have anything else for the agenda, so I'm gonna, if there's no new, I don't know, I'm gonna want to get into new items because we didn't post it. So, someone want to make a move to adjourn?
Yeah,
I'll
will
make a
move
motion.
to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
A second.
Okay. All in favor, leave the meeting.
Aye.
Okay, I'll send out an email tomorrow with the meeting schedule so everyone has it in writing, okay?
All
That's
right.
great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, have a good night. Thanks, Joe. Thanks,
You're
Frank.
welcome.
Yep, good night.